Doctor, how do you know that I'm not professional?
Uh, okay, let me introduce the training session, and I'll be right with you. Okay, so good evening, everyone. This is me again, Dr. Sameh, and this is week 4, session 1. Um, Before the recording, we were talking about the languages that people pick and are learning as we speak. And I was talking to Maya and the fact that she is learning Syriac language, which is obviously not a very, you know, I wouldn't say popular because it is popular where she obviously resides and lives. We were locked in this idea of whether she's proficient or not in the language. And I said that it doesn't seem to me that she is very proficient. And she's now asking me about the reason. Normally, I judge people, regardless of the language, obviously, based on how natural that pronunciation of the language is, which I didn't feel. I mean, things do not come out very naturally. They are more neutral with Mia, which means that she has a long way to go before the language becomes natural and less neutral. Neutrality in language is not a very good thing anyway. Okay, so what is it that we're doing tonight? We're remember, we're going to kind of pick up what we left over from the Lexis class. Remember, last time it was Lexis and vocabulary, and this time around it's going to be grammar. Remember what we said about Lexis and grammar? We said that they go under systems, and they go also under language systems. Remember what you teach in class? You teach one of two categories or two sections, broad sections. You either teach skills or you teach language and language systems. And under language systems, of course, we spoke about reading, writing, listening, and speaking. When we talk about language systems, of course, we talk about grammar, lexis or vocab, discourse, phonology. So this is what you do in class. You either do this or that, and of course, there are subdivisions, as I said. Uh, Last time it was Lexis, like I said, and we got to know what Lexis means. We got to know the different manifestations and aspects of Lexis, and we got to also know what is it that we teach when it comes to Lexis. So what do we teach? If if you're uh, if you have a class tomorrow and you're telling me that the class is Lexis or vocabulary, so what are you going to tell me about the menu and tell me which and choose one. So obviously we have a lexical menu to choose from, right? Um, if you know the answer, raise your hands. So you're teaching vocab tomorrow or Lexis, and you need to be more specific. What is it that you're going to teach? Give me the menu. Somebody is going to give me the menu, and somebody may choose one and perhaps tell us why. Let's start with Mia.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam.
Maybe I'll start with I teach the similarities and the
No, no.
opposite.
Listen, Mia. You have a problem. You answer your own questions. You set questions for yourself, and you go about answering them. You didn't. You didn't listen, obviously, well enough to what I said. My question was about the things that we teach. If I am going to teach, if I'm telling you that I'm teaching language or language systems tomorrow, so what? What is the menu that I'm choosing from? I'm going to teach what or what or what or what. Got got my question? Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
the vocabulary, the grammar, something like that.
I'm teaching language, okay? And I'm telling you that I'm teaching Lexus. I could be, I will be teaching what? Give me the menu if you still remember it.
Yeah, I think the vocabulary and the grammar, something like that. The
I'm telling you, and vocabulary is Lexus, and I'm telling you, I'm not teaching grammar. I'm teaching Lexus. Okay, let's go to Razan and see what she has to say about it. Razan, because you're raising your hand. So I'm teaching
No,
Lexus. What am I going to
no,
teach tomorrow? What are the choices or the options?
we can teach word families or
Mm-hmm.
lexical sets
Mm-hmm.
or antonyms and synonyms.
Nice. Okay, let's go to Fatma, and I would like you to complete the menu for us, Fatma.
Um, the different aspects of Lexis were prefix, suffix, collocations, expressions, idioms, and phrases. I think she already mentioned the word families, and I don't know if she mentioned synonyms and antonyms.
Yeah, she did. Yes,
Yeah.
excellent. So these are the things that we choose from. Okay, you can't be speaking about systems, which is obviously grammar or vocab, and you right. So we're very focused. We're saying that we're teaching language tomorrow, language systems, and we're being more focused by saying that we're teaching lexis or vocabulary. So if you're telling your colleague that you're teaching lexis or vocabulary, he or she will automatically understand that you're teaching perhaps word families, lexical sets, collocations, uh, what else? Synonyms, antonyms, idioms, um, fixed expressions, semi-fixed expressions, right? So these are the things that that when we teach them towards the end of the level or the course or the semester, people will improve when it comes to Lexis, right? Okay. So I'm not going to, obviously, I'm not going to kind of test whether you know them or not by now because you know them and you use them. It's only that the difference this time around is that you're teachers. You're using them from the perspective of a teacher and not from the perspective of a student, right? Okay, let me see where, no, this is not, um, okay. Uh, hmm, okay. So this is very quickly what we said about vocab. Remember what we said, that vocab is uh, takes precedence even over grammar, right? We said that you can't have grammar unless you have vocab. So grammar will come in order to provide cohesion to what is being said. And what is being said is words, is vocabulary. So if you don't have vocabulary, obviously you have nothing. We also spoke about the idea of teaching chunks. You don't teach single words, and you don't advise your students to also learn individual words. I mean, for easier retrieval, learning chunks would be also nice. But what do I mean by a word chunk? It means a group of words. They can be idioms, they can be expressions, they can be collocations, words that always come together. So doing that, teach learning chunks of language is often more meaningful and memorable. They are easy to recall, um, and again, they are also easy to process. Uh, I mean, they also provide and give this sense of fluency. We spoke about ranges of Lexus. When I dropped the word Lexus, we came up with so many meanings. Some of them were even there in our memory, of course, but perhaps the reflection on them being or meaning, vocabulary or meaning was not very clear. Like when I ask you now what a lexical error is, you're going to tell me that it's an error or a mistake that has to do with vocabulary, not grammar, for example. When I ask you about the lexical approach in teaching, you will understand that it's an approach where the focus is on vocabulary rather than on anything else, right? Um, Spoke about aspects of Lexis that we take with us to class, of course, to teach. Spoke about lexical sets, synonyms, antonyms, prefixes, suffixes, and word families. We also spoke about collocations. We spoke about expressions that could be fixed or semi-fixed, and we also spoke about idioms. And we had a number of examples. So this is what we teach in class. We'll start off with single words, but we never obviously end there. So single words, collocations, semi-fixed expressions, and fixed expressions. Together, of course, with the lexical sets and the word families and synonyms and antonyms and everything in between. And this was a passage in which we have all types of Lexus with its different variations, and we spotted those, you know, words and their variations and everything. This is where we stopped. When we teach vocabulary, of course, let's perhaps make this clear. Every time I talk about teaching, I talk about the teacher. I talk about you. Every time I talk about learning, I talk about the learner or the student. So when I say vocabulary learning in class, it means that the focus is obviously on the learner, which is obviously what we normally do. Our classes, like we said, should be learner-centered, where the focus is on the student. So here I'm using the word learning very loosely. I can also use the word teaching. So I can say vocabulary teaching in class or vocabulary learning in class because I understand that you will not be confused. So vocabulary learning in class happen. Uh, Let me refer you to what I mean. So whenever we talk about vocabulary learning or vocabulary teaching, vocabulary can be taught or learned or acquired in an incidental way, and it can be systematic systematic vocabulary learning, whatever that means. I would like to ask, obviously the meaning is generic and it is correct. If you're thinking about it the way I'm thinking about it, when I first heard the two expressions, it's correct. So you have incidental vocabulary learning and you have systematic vocabulary learning, or whatever that means. Come to the mic and share with us. Give it a guess. If you know what incidental means, it's the same. If you know what systematic means, it is the same. Come to the mic. Raise your hand. I need 5 hands at least. I need to see my friends Budur, Hala, Gauhara, Mona, Aya, Rihab, Fatma, Zahra, Bushra, Dina, Raoum, Shamsa, توقع مش عاوز انسى حد رزق. Okay. Any remember I'm not starting unless I have 5 hands. I only have 2 now or 3. Dina, yeah. Okay, that's fine يا Dina. يعني it's good that you're بخير الحمد لله. Okay. So how many hands? I can see only 3. يلا. الجوهرة. What's the difference, if
Hello,
any? So we're
doctor.
talking, yeah, hello, الجوهرة. We're talking about the class, and
Yes.
and it's we're talking about vocabulary and the teaching and the
Yes.
learning of vocabulary. Sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. What's the difference, if any? الجوهرة.
Maybe in a systematic way, it means in an organized way, like we take a specific lesson about synonyms or antonyms, and incidental maybe from like reading a passage or from listening to a recording or something. I'm not really sure, but this is what came in my mind.
Yeah, that's fine. You're close, but it's not what I want. But you're
Okay.
close. Thank you so much, yeah, Al-Gawhar. Okay. Al-Gawhar, Maya, go ahead.
I think, in my opinion, the incidental vocabulary means, the rare vocabularies which is not always used, and the systematic vocabulary is something like people always use it, academic things, something like that.
Unfortunately, no, this is not what I want. You're not close. You took us somewhere else. Where? I mean, very far away. Noor, how about you?
Yes, doctor. I don't know. Like for the teaching the vocabulary by systematically, I guess first you should introduce the word in a friendly way to the learners.
I'm
Then,
not talking about the how, mind you. I'm not talking about the how. I'm talking about, perhaps let me make it closer to you. I'm talking about the intention. I'm I'm talking about the intention. If you okay, Noor, thank you so much. Let's move somewhere else. Let's have Bara. Okay, Hala.
Okay, hello, doctor.
Hi, Hala. How are you?
I think that incidental is like I've heard it somewhere or read it by accident, and
Mhm.
I've never to learn the language, but I saw it and I got curious and I wanted to learn it.
Oh,
The other one, maybe it's I want to learn the word in an organized way. It's adjective, it's synonyms, and so on. I don't know.
okay. Yeah, you're doing a good job. You're very close. Thank you. Aya.
Okay, I think for incidental, maybe I picked up on the meaning from the context.
Look, let's focus on the teacher. You're a teacher. Drop the word learning and replace it with teaching. So incidental teaching and systematic teaching of vocabulary.
Okay, so maybe I said a word to my students and they picked up on the meaning from the context.
Okay, this is what? This is incidental or systematic?
Incidental.
incidental. So which means that let's talk about aims. Remember, we said that we have a plan normally. Whenever you walk into a class, you need to have a plan in mind. You can have a mental plan, and you can have also a preset and a pre-prepared plan, right? So with a very important item on the plan would be, of course, the aims, right? And some of the aims are primary and main, and some of the aims are subsidiary, and I would call them now incidental aims. So if you're teaching, if your aim, perhaps somebody was raising her hand. I would like to hear what she has to say before I spoil it for you. Fatma, you were raising your hand.
I was tying incidental to like incidental expenses where it's like extra and not
Not
essentials.
main. Yeah, yeah, yes. And
The-
absolutely. It's yeah.
So I don't know if that's
Tying
correct.
it to I mean hotels and yes, that's true. Again, I would like you to link it to the idea of aims. You have a main aim and you have a subsidiary or incidental aim. Okay? So main you walk into class and you're teaching language and you're more specifically teaching lexis or vocabulary. Okay, and this is your main aim. So this is going to be teaching vocabulary in a systematic way because you're going to, you have a plan. I'm going to teach, I'll give them an exercise and then I'll have them and divide into groups or pairs in order to do this vocab related exercise. Okay, so I'm focused. This is my main aim. Okay, so if it's my main aim, I cannot finish the class without achieving this main aim. It means this is systematic. I am working towards a goal. Okay. So incidental means that I'm doing something else. Perhaps my main aim is my class is a skill-based class. I'm teaching listening or reading or writing, and somehow, like I think it was Aya who said that a word or two came up and I needed to explain them. So this was incidental because this was not my primary aim. Are you getting the idea? It's not about that, yeah, Noor. We're talking about this idea of intention. We're talking about this idea of aim, what our aims are. Okay, so if my main aim is vocabulary, so this is systematic. If my aim is a skill or perhaps grammar, but a word or two came up and I had to explain them, so this is going to be incidental. Are you getting the idea, everyone? Raise your hands if you're getting it. I'm a bad teacher, I know. Very poor at explaining things. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on. Let me test whether I did a good job with that or not. So again, we're talking about vocabulary teaching or learning. We said that we have incidental vocabulary teaching or learning, and we have systematic vocabulary learning. Okay, so I would like you to look at these scenarios and tell me which is which. So we have six scenarios, six teaching scenarios. And I would like you to tell me whether the vocabulary taught in the lesson was incidental or systematic. Yalla, you guys have 3 minutes because you have to read the whole scenario and understand it very well in order to decide on whether the I mean, the vocabulary taught was incidental or systematic. Guys, you have 3 minutes. So if somebody is asking about what a game of charades is, I would like, I sent you a link, and I can wait for perhaps 1 more minute for you to check what a game of charades is. Okay. Um, Raise your hand if you would like to tell me which is which. Let me make it this way. Okay. Then I'll ask you a different question. Let me confuse you. Okay. So judging from whether the vocabulary learned was incidental or what was the other word? Uh, Systematic. Uh, I would like you to tell me which of the in which of these six scenarios, or in which of them the main aim was vocab or lexis. So which of these six scenarios had vocab as the main aim? Give me one, ya Fatma. Give me only one.
The main aim of is vocab.
Ah, yes.
Is
Where?
number 2. That's just teaching them vocabulary.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other scenarios of the six where vocab or lexis was the main aim? Anybody else? Besma, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. I think also the first one in a reading lesson, a learner asks for the meaning of a word in the text.
Remember, this is a reading lesson. So the main
Yes.
aim, yeah, the main aim is a skill, not a vocabulary. So the main aim here is reading, right?
What about asking for the meaning of the word of?
Yeah, this is incidental, but the main aim of the teacher is the main aim of the lesson is reading, right?
Okay.
That's the difference, obviously, between incidental and systematic, right?
Yes, yes, I
Uh,
got it now.
okay. Where else do we have vocabulary as main aim? Let me see how many hands we have. Budur, go ahead.
I think it's number 5.
Let me read it.
Oh, that at the beginning of the
Mm,
lesson, the teacher
mm,
sets up a game of charades using idioms presented in the last 2 lessons.
At the beginning, the teacher. Yeah, it is all about vocabulary. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Okay. I think these are the only two teaching situations where vocabulary is the main aim. And if it's the main aim, it means that this is, kind of systematic. So let's still do it. So which is incidental? Which of the teaching scenarios is incidental? Teaching vocabulary, I mean, and which of them is systematic? Yeah. Let's have other people. I can see lots of hands. Okay, Mia, number one. What do you think number one is?
I think number one is the incidental because
Y-
it's not about this something
Yeah.
specific like this thematic.
because
Incidental, maybe.
it's a reading class. It's a reading
Yeah.
class, not a vocabulary lesson, right? So it's incidental. It's by sheer accident that a word or two came out that one of the student does not understand, and obviously you need to kind of clarify them to them. How about the second one? Let's have somebody else. Where is everyone else? We have um, okay, so yeah, we have Mia Budur. Fatma, go ahead, number two.
Number
'Cause you,
two, I think it's systematic.
yeah, is the main aim vocabulary?
Yeah.
Okay, so the teacher presents a set of words using pictures and mime. She then asks the learners to repeat the words. Yeah, it's all about the words and match them, yeah, up with definitions. After that, she gives them a gap filling exercise targeting absolutely vocab. The whole lesson is vocab, and obviously she is teaching. She has a plan in mind. The whole class is vocab or lexis. Okay, number three. Who else is raising his or her hand? I would like to see other people's hands, يا جماعة. Okay, Razan, go ahead.
And I think number three is incidental.
Yeah, what's the key word or words here?
Reading comprehension activity.
Yes, after completing a couple of
Yes.
reading comprehension activities. So the main aim is obviously reading comprehension, right? So it's the skill that it's a skill that is being taught, which is reading. After that, the teacher asks the learners to find words in the text. This is obviously incidental. It's not very, this is obviously not the main aim. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Razan. Let's move all the way to Hala.
So number four is incidental
Yeah, why is that?
because the student is asking to translate a word in English, and it's not the aim.
Yeah, and obviously the main aim of the lesson is what? Hala.
In English.
I mean, are we teaching? Let
دكتور
me ask. Wait. Are we
دكتور
teaching? Wait, please. If you wait.
I have to leave the lecture. I
Hmm.
have an urgent need.
You have an emergency. معلش ولا يهم. Okay. Okay,
Thank you
شمسة.
دكتور.
طمنين عليكي. Okay.
إن
يلا
شاء الله دكتور.
يلا توفيق. مع السلامة. Okay, let's go back to 4. And my question is whether we're teaching 4, are we teaching skills or systems? And I'm talking to Hala.
Uh, it's a word isn't organized
Hala.
to be
So speaking, if you're teaching speaking, this is skills or systems? Yeah, Hala.
skill.
It's a skill, okay? Right? It's not, you're not teaching language, obviously. You're not teaching vocab or grammar, right?
Yeah.
So during a speaking activity, this is obviously the main aim is a skill, which is speaking. A learner asks the teacher how we say, and then a word, and obviously in French, right? So this is what? This is systematic or incidental? What do you think?
Incidental.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Ella. 5. Can we have somebody for 5? Rehab, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. At the beginning of the lesson, the teacher sets up a game of charades using idioms presented Charades using idioms presented in the last two lessons. Systematic.
Yeah, very systematic. Because the
Yes,
main aim is what?
yes. The main
Yeah.
focus here is to learn new idioms and to remember them, to memorize
Yes.
them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Noor, number 6.
Yes, doctor.
Because
Just
you're
before
here.
playing, yeah, just before playing the audio for a listening task, the teacher presents two keywords from the recording. I guess it's systematic.
Um, what's the aim? The aim is what? If we talk about
Uh,
audio, if we talk about listening task,
yeah. Oh, then it's
hmm,
incidental.
yeah, right? Okay. Okay, let's look at them. I'll give you a minute to look at them and think about them. Okay, I think they are now clear. Let's move on. Okay, so here is something very interesting. Um, so you're prepared for the class, and obviously it's Alexis class. You have a plan in mind, you have a lesson plan in which vocabulary is going to be systematic. So your class is vocabulary. Okay. And you're going to go about it offering and introducing vocab. And we're not talking about explaining vocab or explaining anything anymore. We're very meticulous about the words that we use. We're very reserved in using words. We're not saying explaining because explaining is now a bad word. Okay? So you're not explaining in class anymore. You're helping students. You are a guide on the side rather than a sage on the stage, like we said. So the word explanation does not exist anymore. So what you do is that you present, that you help, you divide people into groups and pairs. You try to help them understand something. So we talk about understanding, but we don't talk about explaining anymore. So that's why here we're saying presenting vocabulary. Presenting vocabulary to whom? You're presenting it to the students. So in the past 10 and 15 years, we could have used the word explaining vocabulary, but obviously we're not using it anymore. And even the stages that we take in presenting vocabulary are very suggestive of the fact that we're not explaining anymore. We're helping students pick up the language, but we're not giving them the language in a direct way because that would be uh, too direct and that could be, counterproductive. It doesn't go this way. Minds. You have to stimulate their minds. You have to stimulate their memories. Okay, you have to engage them. So it's not about explaining anymore, like I said. So what is it? And how do you go about it? How do you present vocabulary? So this is what you do when it comes to presenting vocabulary. Talk about noticing, clarifying, checking understanding, and recording. So this is how you go about it. Noticing, obviously, it's not you who notices things, right? Noticing. Who notices? Obviously, it's the student. You put him or her or them in situations where they pick up the language. They notice things. You don't give them things directly. Okay? So perhaps this idea of interfering would come later when we talk about clarifying things. Now that they have noticed, and they have noticed it because they were not born yesterday, make no mistake about it. They are going to notice things. And also because they are very smart. Okay, so you're not giving them, you're not spoon feeding them when it comes to language. You may be doing this with other subjects, geography, history, Arabic, I don't know what. But when it comes to language, you need to empower them, and empowering them means that you don't take them for granted. You don't spoon feed them because it's language that you're teaching them, because you're trying to make them practice the language. And practicing the language does not happen with spoon feeding, with content. It's about, discovering, it's about taking risks with the language and practicing it. So noticing, and then after they have noticed and they have gathered like 50% of what you want to say without you having to say it directly, you then start to clarify things in order to make sure that they understood, in order to make sure that the other 50% is there. And then you check that they have understood. And then you ask them to record. Recording here does not mean, you ask them to use their mobiles in order to. Recording here means taking down notes, writing things down so that it can stay. Again, we're stressing the fact that when we teach, we are not explaining anymore. We are presenting, and presenting with vocab happens through these steps or stages. Start with noticing, and then you clarify after they have noticed, and then you check understanding, and then you record. This is more or less like what we call guided discovery. Remember this framework that we agreed on? Guided discovery, or what we call, this is something that Al-Gawhara likes very much, this idea of inductive teaching. Inductive means that you give examples on the board, not examples, because examples means that you have explained something. You put sentences on the board, you put words on the board, and you ask them to kind of compare and contrast, look, and perhaps notice the difference. In our case, for example, if you bring in a word like help, and you bring another word like helpful, and ask about what, and of course you put them in a context, and you tell them about the difference that the suffix full, for example, made and makes, judging from the examples and from their experiences. And then you build on that, and then you clarify after that, in order to make sure that they have fully understood. And then you ask concept checking questions in order to check that they have fully understood. And then you give them time to process the information and take things down, because make no mistake about it, recording the things, writing them down, make the thing stick. Okay, so how do people make their students notice? Um, Perhaps prior to teaching, prior to taking up teaching, I was under the impression that noticing is something that you do as a student. And now I also understand that it's something that you also do in order to allow your student to notice. So it's situations that you create so that you can put your learner in a situation where he or she can notice things. Um, and again, it's through sentences that you put, where sometimes you use coloring, it can be coloring, it can be bold-faced words, it can also be contrastive analysis, where you have a number of sentences that are similar, but there are obviously differences or small differences, and those differences are what obviously make all the difference between, like I said, help and helpful when we use the word less, for example, in sentences, and using ing to change a word from perhaps an adjective, using ed, where you also can make an adjective indicating or from suggesting that we're talking about people, boring and bored, interesting and interested. So noticing can happen if you highlight form, spelling, and pronunciation. If you highlight collocations and collocations, and by the way, we use collocations and collocations interchangeably, at least for our present purposes, and also we ask them to notice the change in style and register, formal, informal, the relationship between the speakers. So this is noticing, and we'll have examples, and we'll have a whole lesson where you are using those tools. And then comes clarifying. So you clarify, uh, um, obviously we're talking about words. It can be a word, it can be a phrase, it can be lexical sets, and everything in between. So clarify, what is it that you clarify or help clarify? You clarify the meaning, the use, and the connotations or the shades of meaning of a word or a phrase. And how do you do that? By these tools. You use visual aids, you use realia. Realia is concrete objects. If you're trying to show them or to introduce a spoon to them, you don't you don't have to write it in Arabic, for example. You can have a spoon with you. You bring in a spoon from your home and show it to them. This is called realia. Okay, if you're teaching them what a cat is, you bring your own cat. This is realia. Okay. So mime or demonstration, of course, miming is when you move your hands and your body without saying a word. This is mime or demonstration. Sometimes you translate, you give examples, you make up scenarios, you give definitions, you sometimes explain, sometimes you give the word and you give it the opposite. Or a synonym. A synonym would be a word that has the same meaning. So this is how you clarify. You see how many tools you have at your disposal. And then this is also one way um, when we talk about language clarification. I think I needed to have this before it, checking understanding. And you check understanding, again, you check the understand with that they have understood the meaning, the use, and the connotations, and again through the tools that we spoke about. Um, Again, finally, you ask them to record what they have understood, because recording is very important. Recording means that they take down notes. Okay, so now that we have established how we are going to go about it, we need to have a framework in which uh, 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 I'm not going to use the word, in which we present vocab or the new vocab. What are the frameworks that we can use? Remember I started with what we call guided discovery, and obviously guided discovery is an approach. The framework for guided discovery would be something like this. Are you familiar with this? Look at this. This is one of the frameworks that we spoke about. We said TTT, test, teach, test. Make it bigger so that you can look at it. Start with a lead in and then test, teach, test, and then you give feedback. This is one of the frameworks that we're going to use if we intend to teach Lexis or vocab. Okay, so the word test can be very intimidating. Of course, we don't mean a test in the formal sense of the word. We mean a small quiz, a number of sentences through which you check whether students know the concept beforehand or not. Because if you teach them something that they already know, and they know a lot, obviously, because English is all over the place. So you don't want to start from the scratch, because starting from the scratch can be very insulting. It's as if you're taking them for granted. You're not really catering to their needs. Their needs is to know something new. Okay, so if you test their knowledge and you find them know know I mean the thing that you're going to teach, you need to switch gears and move to something else. You don't insist on teaching them what they already know. It's pointless, right? You're wasting their time, obviously, and your time also. So this is the aim of having a small quiz or a small test or a number of sentences or an exercise where you ask them to answer, whose questions you ask them to answer before you do anything. So again, the idea is that you don't start from scratch. The idea is that you uh, spare the time that you'll be spending on something that they already know to you spare it and do something more useful with it. So so this is the framework of choice if it comes to Lexis. Test, teach, test. So you start off with a number of sentences in order to check whether they know what you are going to teach them or not. And then, of course, you have variations. You will have people who are 100% clear about what you're going to teach, and some people are perhaps new, they don't know. In this case, you're going to teach, and your teaching is going to be based on what you have found out about your learners. Half the class don't know, and the other half know. So you're going to make sure that you give those who don't know what they need, and you also going to make sure that you don't alienate those who know by giving them what they already know. So it's something that you have to think about. So teach, and of course, by teaching in this part, I mean noticing, clarifying, checking, understanding, and recording. And then you test them again and again. You give them a number of sentences in order to check whether they have fully understood the concept and the ideas and the language or not. And then you give feedback at the end or towards the end of the class. Is that clear, everyone? So those,
Teacher,
yeah,
sorry, teacher.
let me address those who teach. If you're already a teacher, raise your hand. How many of you already teachers? And Fatma, do you teach language?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you teach vocabulary? Is it different from what we said?
It's similar.
Mm.
It's different from kids to adults, but it's kind of
Yeah.
similar.
Mm-hmm.
Where I allow them to, if they know the meaning, I'll have them explain it. If not, I will allow them to use their phones to find the meaning, and then they
Mm-hmm.
will explain it to their friends, and then we do exercises
So
on it.
so you do believe in implicit learning. Implicit means indirect. The idea of
But
noticing. What do you think
yes,
of that?
yes, for the adults, yes. I think for the kids, it
Yeah, it
can
can
be
be
something
yes.
like
It
that.
can be yes because they are, you know, I think they are more intelligent than we give them credit for. Yeah, Fatma.
Oh, yeah,
What do you
of
think?
course, no, of course they don't. Of course they do.
Mm,
It's just going to be in a different way. But like you said, like we do test them first to see if they know what this
mm,
is and give them a chance to explain it from either a picture or a video.
yeah,
And then we test them, like you said, from putting in sentences
yeah.
at the
Thank you.
end.
Thank you,
You know,
Fatma. Basma,
Yes,
is your
doctor.
yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm also a tutor for about
Uh, you
10
teach
years.
language, right? Do you teach
Yes,
language?
yes, yes. I taught international learners.
Mm.
Uh, yes,
Are you're teaching, I mean, young learners or adults?
no, from grade 1 to grade
Mm.
4. Grade
Okay.
5, let's say. Grade 5, yes. I taught last year, I taught grade 5, yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
and do you teach do you sometimes have to teach vocabulary,
yes,
grammar,
of
stuff
course.
like that?
I am a tutor.
Mm,
I help the learner too. I taught them English, social science,
mm,
in English, yes, and one of them that in English. So English, so I have to teach them vocabulary. Yes, I make all these steps about noticing, clarifying, checking, understanding. Um,
yes.
so I can say that uh, in general that I use simplification. I use to simplify. Even if I want to say that this word is new for them, for example, this vocabulary is new. So I can make it, for example, let's say that I can make it
So
very simple until they found it in their language, in Arabic, for
okay,
example.
let me يعني get I mean I would like you to clarify this idea of simplicity because simplicity
Yes.
remember the menu of tools that we're using when it comes to clarifying. So obviously you're
Mhm.
talking about the second stage. The first
Yes, yes,
stage would be to allow them to notice. Okay.
yes.
The second stage would be to clarify because obviously not all of them noticed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
which of the we have a toolkit of clarification techniques or tools.
Yes.
Remember
Sometimes
we
I,
spoke yeah, remember
yeah.
let me show them to you.
Yes,
Remember,
I remember.
yes, yeah, these are the tools, right?
Yeah. Actually, I don't use translation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, I use. يعني I follow all these rules. At least at last, sorry, at last I can use translation if there is no choice. But
Mm-hmm.
translation, I don't use it. But all of the most of the time, I use to give them examples.
Mm-hmm. That's
Examples. Yeah.
interesting. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. The examples, synonyms. Sometimes synonyms. I give them synonyms if I find the synonyms that is that it's suitable for their age, or they can understand it in their age. I can use it, but
Nice,
most of the time I give examples.
nice, very good.
I put it
And
in a
so,
sentence. I put the word in a
ex
sentence. Yes,
nice.
and they fast. They can.
Pick it up very fast.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
nice, nice, mashallah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Do we have other people who would like to share their experience? Maya was raising her hand.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alex,
Actually, my way of teaching is really traditional, as I told to doctor before. That I'm explaining everything, and sometimes I translate the words to Arabic language to their native language.
so
But
yeah, I mean, you're sometimes you use the one of the tools that we have, right? But perhaps it's the
yeah,
arrangement, the steps, the arrangement of the steps is very important, right?
yeah. But
Mm.
nowadays I started to let them talk, okay, and to ask them about something they are already maybe know, just to let them
Yeah.
to give them the chance to talk.
Yes. I mean, you don't assume that they don't know, because they know, they do know things, especially if it comes to English. Like I said, English is all over the place. So you don't have absolute beginners. You don't have people who don't know nothing about English. They do know, right? Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you, Maya. Thank you so much. Okay, so one way, or perhaps another technique of clarifying would be to go this way. You start with the meaning, and then you move to the form and then pronunciation. This is what we call the MFP framework. This is, again, this is part of the second stage. This is part of the clarifying stage. You clarify, you start with the meaning, and then you move on to the form, and then comes the pronunciation. Meaning is very important because obviously you cannot kind of clarify something that they don't understand. That's why you need to give the meaning first. And these are different ways as how you can give the meaning if you still remember. And then you move to the form. We talk about the word, whether it's long or short. What kind of word is it? Is it a collocation? Is it a semi-fixed expression, or an expression or idiom? And then you move on to the pronunciation. You teach them how to pronounce the word. And here is an example. This is a language analysis sheet. And this is normally what you do. Again, you start with the meaning, and then you move on to the form, and then you move after that to the phonology or the pronunciation part. Spoke about checking understanding, and then we spoke also about recording, and we said that it's very important. We spoke about the relevant framework when it comes to lexis or vocab, and that would be the end of the vocabulary or lexis part. Now we're going to move on to the grammar part, but before we do that, I would like to see if you guys have any questions. Okay, so it doesn't seem that you have any. That's fine. Let's move on to the grammar part. Remember, let me just remind you that grammar comes under language systems. So if I say that I'm teaching systems tomorrow, you need to ask me whether I'm going to teach lexis or grammar or phonology or discourse. So this is what we call language systems as opposed to language skills. If I say that I'm going to teach skills, it means that I'll be teaching, perhaps micro skills that have to do with listening, speaking, reading, or writing. So language systems, we're done with lexis and we're moving now to grammar. Okay. So what do we know? When I drop the word grammar, what comes to your mind? When I mention the word, what are the associations of grammar? What comes to your mind when I say grammar? Basma, go ahead.
Yes, doctor, I can say that it's the rules of how to say how to arrange the sentence, how to speak correctly.
So it's about how to do something, right? It's about
Yeah. How?
how to arrange something, right? So
Yeah.
arranging how, yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Basma. Budur? Mona is saying structure. Yes, structure is a very interesting word.
I was about to say structure too.
Yeah, that's nice. Hala, you were raising your hand.
I was just gonna say structure and organizing sentence.
That's so it's about organization, which means that it's something. Um, I mean, you add it to something that is not organized, or perhaps we would say that something is not organized unless you have grammar, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mm,
Also
yeah.
tenses, you
What?
know, organizing tenses.
Yes, it's organization that we're having in mind. It's with whatever comes with it. I mean, the idea of organizing time, divide it, make it, yeah, make things clear when it comes to the time. Yes, yeah. So again, this is a very important aspect. Right. Let's see. So grammar. So I would like you to read this. Give you a minute and tell me how comfortable you are reading and understanding it. Okay, so how comfortable you are reading it. So what do you think? Was it smooth, Mia?
No, actually, I don't feel comfortable doing reading it. I think there's
But
something
let me
wrong.
ask, yeah, but let me ask, did you understand it
No,
at all?
actually, just a few words.
Oh, okay, Fatma,
Not at all.
what do you think? I'm talking about two things. I'm talking about the level of comfort and then the idea of understanding.
Me?
Yeah, because you're raising your hand.
Yeah, yeah. And I understood it. It's just not formed correctly.
Okay. Yes.
but it's understood.
So you have vocab, right?
Yes, we do have
But
vocab.
but something else is missing, and we'll talk about it in a minute. Thank you,
Yeah.
Razan.
It's can be understandable, but because the grammatical rules are missing,
Yeah, are not
we
observed, right?
yes, if we checked it from the point of view of a normal student, it will be it might be.
Yes. So, but the meaning is there.
Yes,
But perhaps it took you some time and some efforts to kind of figure it out.
yes, to correct it in my head.
Yeah, right? To reorganize it. And in order to reorganize it, what did you use, ya Budur? Or perhaps Hala can answer this.
I think it's missing helping verbs or modal verbs.
Yeah. And what do we call that? This goes under what? Vocabulary or grammar?
A grammar
Yes.
to help
Okay.
and the sentence clearly.
Yes. Okay. Nice. Okay. Do you agree with this based on what you have seen with the grammar, with the part that you have just read? When we say that grammar is the glue that holds the language together, do you think
Of
this
course.
is what grammar is? Do you think that um, that those strings, because I wouldn't call them sentences because they don't have a beginning and an end for me to call them sentences. Do you think that they are loose? They needed glue to kind of put them together and connect them together in a comprehensible way? What do you think?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll agree that grammar is the glue that holds the language together. And here you can compare. I would like you to make this comparison between uh, uh, the original strings and uh, uh, the correct version at the end. I don't know whether if I make it in big, you can read it, you can still read it or not. Yeah, you can read it, right?
Yes.
Make make those comparisons between the original version and the correct one. So obviously what is missing, we have the words, right? We have the lexis. The lexis is there, right? What is missing, uh, you know, like Hala said, sometimes you don't have helping verbs. Sometimes you need a certain ending. Sometimes you need a preposition, apostrophe, um, S for the plural, third person singular, S. And those things go under what? Vocab or grammar? Yeah, speak because I cannot see you. Absolutely grammar, right? Yes.
Yes.
So which means that you will agree with this. When we talk about grammar, we refer to structures like Hala and lots of people and Mona said. So when we talk about structures, and those structures range from verb endings, when you use ed or ing endings, you use the s of the third person. When you use prefixes and suffixes like the s, like the er, when you use, like I said, er and s, auxiliary verbs like was and do and have, articles like a and an and the, prepositions like to, at, on. When we talk about the syntax or the word order, somebody referred to that. So that would all grammar, right? Which means that you will agree with this statement. I would like you to read it and tell me whether you now safely agree with it or not. Can somebody read it out loud for us?
Can I? Anything.
Yeah, go ahead. Anyone.
Grammar can be described as the nuts and bolts of the language, whereas lexis carries meaning.
Do you guys agree with this statement? You know what the nuts and bolts, if you have a car or if you have a machine, unless you're tightening things, the nuts and the bolts is going to be loose. So this is what a sentence or a group of sentences are. They are loose. They don't have, their nuts and bolts are not tightened unless you use grammar, right? You agree with this analogy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Why learn grammar? Why? Why do you think we're learning grammar? I'll give you 4 minutes to read why we teach grammar and why students learn grammar. Go ahead. You guys have 4 minutes from now. You may want to take down notes. Okay. So did you take down notes? If you have taken down notes, raise your hands. Anyone? No one. Mia? Who else? Fatma? Okay, Fatma, can you read your notes to us about this part?
Why grammar is important. Um, in order for your meaning to be conveyed in a understood way, and for your sentence to have well, not your sentence, what you're trying to convey can have cohesion and can be coherent. So I think that's why grammar is important.
Okay. Okay. Mia?
I know that the grammar is important because it makes the sentence more clearer than without the grammars works. Make the sentences makes the tenses make the sentences more clearer to us because without it will be like the language of the children. But
Yeah.
and during the time at the beginning we learning the vocabulary, but during the time we started to accept to take the grammar during the time.
Okay,
It
let's
just
talk to other people. Whatever you guys have understood, you don't have to have taken down notes, that's fine. Other people, remember we spent 4 long minutes reading it. Basma, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. I noticed that grammar give me make the sentence or the information more precise.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it gives
Yeah.
me the exact meaning. For example, when I talk about the tenses, let's say, it's different between when I say, what did I do before, what I have done, what I do every day. So the tenses, for example, the grammar here, give me the precise time, the precise meaning. So it helps me to know the exact information.
Okay, nice. I agree. Thank you. Razan?
I understand that grammar is important because we cannot depend only on vocabulary. Because if we depended only on vocabulary, uh, the language will be more complex because using different grammatical tools like prepositions can change the meaning.
Mhm. Yeah, not only preposition, especially when it comes to tenses also, right? Using
Mm,
the right tense can make all the difference, right?
yes,
Okay, Razan, thank you.
grammar is the deep
Yeah,
system of rules,
grammar is what?
a deep system of rules. Without rules, language is just like any aspect of life. We cannot
Yeah,
live without rules, and we
yeah,
cannot have
it's going to be
language
very
without
fluid,
rules.
you know, when we have something very fluid, you cannot lay your hand on. I mean, language is going to be more or less like water. Can you hold water?
No,
You need what? You need a glass for water, right?
yes,
So the glass would be the grammar,
exactly.
right? And
Yes,
water would be the words inside.
yes.
Okay. Budur?
Yes, obviously, with words, we can understand the meaning of what a person would want to say, but without the grammar, we can understand different things. We can't just understand the precise meaning of what this person is trying to say. I mean, with the context, of course, we can understand, but sometimes we don't have the access to the context. So grammar can help just connect the context with the words so we can understand the precise meaning.
Yeah.
It is
Very.
important for a person to uh, for the language to be as the last word is grammaticized. Grammaticized. I think
Hmm.
this is the word. It
Yeah,
has to
yeah, that.
be that way so we
Yes.
can
Thank you.
understand.
Thank you, Budur. Thank you. Very philosophical today, mashallah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I would like you to read it one more time. This is not a waste of time. Read it one more time. Guys, I'll give you a couple of minutes this time around. Go ahead. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is also very interesting. It's about how learners see grammar, and it's also about you as a teacher. Um, mm, and sometimes people find grammar difficult. I mean, to uh, clarify, and I wouldn't use the word explain to present. So read this part. It's about the learner and how he or she sees grammar and its utility, and also about teachers. So, so how does learners approach grammar? How do they see grammar? Basma, are you raising your hand?
Yes, doctor.
Okay.
Learners see the grammar as the key of learning language because it teaches them the rule, and when they see that they follow the sets of rules, they feel that they are in the, let's say, in the I can feel that they feel that they are in
They
the
are,
safe side. When I follow
yes.
rules to make a sentence, they feel that they are in the safe side,
Mhm.
and that's why I found my answer here. Why I usually like to teach grammar and like to they feel in this article I read that teachers feel confidence when they teach grammar. Yeah, I like that. I found my
Yeah.
answer. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but it's
just I
obviously there is more to language than just grammar. This is the trap that we don't want to fall into. I know
yeah
of teachers, perhaps I was one of them at one point. The only thing that you teach in class would be grammar. You turn any class into a grammar class, and obviously there is more to
yeah.
language teaching than
This
just
is the
grammar.
gap that I want. Because
Yes.
when I was studying in Syria in the Syrian school just focus on grammar. They don't teach us the skills of speaking, the skills of conversation. So nowadays you can find that the Syrian student can solve many questions, many grammar questions, but they cannot speak. They cannot
Yeah,
speak
mashallah,
English
your English is excellent. Yeah, but you
now
and
because I study here because now I complete my study here, but I'm talking
lots
about
of
my
other
study
people
in
that I
Syria.
met from Syria. Yes.
I I study in Syria. I don't agree with you. Not
Really.
because we love
Mm.
Arabic.
Yeah, but the focus is,
I'm
yeah,
talking about
yeah.
my
Oh.
experience. Maybe it's another. I'm talking about my experience. My
Yeah,
experience. I
it's
found yeah, and I found many students now also they just focus
mm,
on grammar. They don't focus on speaking, on
yeah.
conversation. How do I speak? And even my friend studied English literature at
Mm,
in Syria, in the University of Syria, and
mm,
also she said
mm,
the same. She said the same. Even when she graduated, she said that I cannot speak. I know the grammar. I know how to read. I know, but I can solve many question grammar, even if it's very hard. Many grammar questions, even if it's very hard. But I cannot speak
yeah, it's a common
because they
problem.
just yes,
I think it's also across the Arab world. Where I come from, we also the focus was on grammar. You know something, because grammar is easier to teach because we are like our students. We like rules. Are easy. I mean, I prepare them and I walk into the class and I teach them. It's very easy. Rule. I mean, grammar is not as fluid as other skills. I mean, look at for example, listening and speaking, and sometimes you don't know what to teach. It's very fluid, you know, it's like water. Okay, but grammar is rules. You memorize them yourself and you walk into the class and put them on the board. And obviously, this is, of course, not something that we recommend. Um, Again, thank you, Basma, for sharing your experience with us. Perhaps I have the same experience. I learned to
thank
speak much later, perhaps after I finished high school, and
you.
um, yeah. Let's maybe but let's talk about what you understood, not what Basma said.
Okay.
Mm.
Uh, I understand that the students and the students think that the grammar is something really important. So because of that, they wanna learn it because that depends on the 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 systems of the system of the education in their countries maybe, and the many teachers found it easier. So because of that, they focus on grammar. But in my
Yes.
opinion, even though if they focus on grammar, so they should focus on grammar because it's your responsibility to learn how to talk or to
Mm.
try to speak. So the teachers
Yeah.
and the university will not teach you everything. So they just put you on they
No,
they
no.
will give
As
you
a
the
language teacher, no, no,
offers.
no. Oh,
They just give you the
no,
structures, and you have to work on yourself. Not they
no,
shouldn't learn
no.
teach you everything,
Eh,
even though speaking.
No, if you're a language learner, if you're a language teacher, you have to cover everything. You have to have this balance between the skills and the language, of course. And by now, you know what language means. So you have to
Yeah, but
maintain this balance. Yeah. If you focus on the language and grammar especially, and you leave out the other micro skills, I mean, listening and speaking, and obviously you're not doing your students a good service. We'll
Maybe
have time to talk more about that, inshallah. Let's move on. Uh, no, this is not what I want. This is not even. This is also very important. Uh, I mean, you don't have to, as a teacher, because some teachers are don't have the confidence, or perhaps they try to convince themselves that they don't have the confidence to go and teach grammar uh, um, at ease, and they sometimes they complicate things for themselves because they are sometimes under the false impression that they have to know everything, which is obviously a myth that we need to fight together. You don't have to know everything. All you need to do is to prepare for the thing that you're going to teach. Perhaps over time you know everything, but not if you are a new teacher. You have the basics, and perhaps you have more than the basics, mashallah. So all you need to do is to remind yourself that preparation is key, and that you have to do some research before you walk into class, especially when it comes to grammar. You're not expected to know everything about the grammatical system when you start teaching, but it is very necessary to that you do research before you plan to teach a lesson. And of course, grammar references are all over the place, and you can have books, you have sections on grammar in your course book. You can have grammar reference books, and you can also have dictionaries. And here is a very interesting example. This is perhaps practical. So here is you have a very small exchange between an interviewer and a student, Gerald. And based on the exchange, we are going to determine and identify the needs. And then based on that, we are going to kind of develop a plan and a lesson for that. So I would like you to look at the excerpt, and we're telling you that the errors are grammar. We're not saying, we're not putting it or leaving it up for grabs. We're telling you we're very focused. So, but you need to tell us what kind of errors there are. Look at the exchange and tell me. The interviewer and Gerald. So what is missing? Vocab or grammar?
grammar.
Yeah, grammar.
Grammar.
Yeah. And what kind of grammar? What do we need? The teacher write on the blackboard sentences. Two main things. And obviously we talk about two different grammatical categories. Basma, go ahead.
Yes, teacher. as he answered in the past. How did? So the
Yeah, so
teacher wrote
tense, right? So we have
tense.
issues with
Yeah,
tenses,
yeah, yeah.
or tenses,
Should I
right?
complete?
Okay,
Yeah.
and the other, can you hear me?
And yeah, and the other, it's about arranging. The teacher wrote
Yes, order.
sentences. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
order.
about the
Yes,
arranged word. Yeah.
yes, that's correct. Okay. Hala, would you like to say something else?
It's about the same. I was gonna say it's missing suffix.
Ah, you mean, yeah, that's you mean the use of suffix? Where when you talk about what? Right instead
In the
of right, wrote?
sentence, yes.
Okay, so I wouldn't call it suffix, but that's fine. You're talking about the tense. We have issues with the tenses, and we also have issues with the sentence order, the order of the sentence, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to have a lesson around that, right? We need to create a lesson. Now that we have determined and identified the needs, we need to go about creating a lesson plan for that. Okay, so you can use this system where you are going to highlight the meaning, and then you move on to the form, and then you pronounce. So again, this is the sheet, the language analysis sheet that you're going to use. And this is your diagnosis. You are like a teacher who is diagnosing a disease. You are telling people what kind of um, problems the student has. This is what we call, sometimes we have what we call language clinics. In some universities, they have that. We call it, in our university, we call it writing center. Sometimes before we start giving writing center lessons, we kind of test the students in order to identify their needs. So this is more like a clinic, and this is perhaps the diagnosis, تشخيص بتاع الحالة. So what does this diagnosis say? It says Gerald has a problem with the past symbol. Okay, so in order to kind of fix the problem, you need to analyze the meaning, form, pronunciation, and appropriacy of this grammar. And uh, here what we have, the teacher wrote our names on the board. The teacher did not write the date on the board. These are examples that you give, and then you build on that. So you're going to start with the meaning and then move on to the form, and then you end with the pronunciation. This is how it should look like at the end. This is your language analysis sheet. Again, the title would be past symbol because this is the problem that we have. So the meaning, you are going to say this. The past symbol refers to finished actions in the past. This is the meaning of the past. And then the form, you'll talk about the verb write and how it is irregular. And then you talk about the past in general and how we use ed for it in most of the cases. And you also refer to the negative form. And then pronunciation, how we pronounce write and wrote. Um, uh, and also we talk about the regular cases where sometimes we use the dah, sometimes we pronounce the tah or id. And then we have this category that we call appropriacy, and that we don't normally use. The language is neutral and safe. Um, I'll leave this part to next time, and it's about activities and how we identify activities. And um, I'll give you perhaps 3 or 4 minutes for questions if you have any. Do you guys have any questions?
Teacher,
Yes, go ahead.
just teacher, listen, I wanna tell you that I start to talk in English before I graduate. I studied here and I studied in Saudi Arabia, but I start to talk in English just from few months like that, something like that, because I start to listen to English, to some English videos, and to practice with English person. So because of that, I started to talk in English. So I don't think that that's depend on the teacher or the education of the school or the university.
No, schools and teachers create opportunities for the students to learn. Okay? And they create that by not focusing on one single item and leaving everything else. This is what we're trying to say. So we're talking about um, the ideal situations. We're talking about classes where if you now know the difference between systems and skills, and you know when to use what and how, you should be having this kind of balance between the skills and the systems. This is what we're here for. We're here. Uh, obviously, we come from the self-same background. The idea that the focus in our schools was on grammar, because again, for obvious reasons, we said that grammar is easy to teach. Okay, so as good teachers now, we need to remember that grammar is important, like we said, but obviously language learning is not only about grammar. This is what we're trying to say. Any other questions, anyone and everyone?
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome. Right. On this item, on this note, and with this item, we come to the end of tonight's lovely meeting. I thank you so much, and I'll see you, inshallah, on Wednesday. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Assalam.
Bye.
عليكم السلام.